Hi, I'm Kyle Bransfield. I'm the founder of Union Acquisition Group. We are a private and public markets investor globally. We are also an investor in food technology and agriculture technology. Our first SPAC merger was with a business based in Rosario, Argentina. It also brought us into exposure in Brazil. What many people don't know is that Argentina and Brazil is one of the largest bread baskets in the world. Agriculture is an area of particular focus for us. We operate a company called Union Agriculture Group, which is one of the largest industrial farmland operators in Uruguay. It is actually through that core competency that we met Bioceres Crop Solutions. As many of you know, Biox was the business that we merged our first SPAC into and is now publicly traded, and I sit on the board of that company. Through that investment process, we came to know a company that I'm very, very proud of and I'm very excited about, and that is called Moolec Sciences. Hey guys, how are we doing?
Very well.
Great. Okay. I'm here with the CEO and CFO of Moolec Sciences, and I'm looking forward to a constructive conversation. If you wouldn't mind, just to kick things off, maybe give us your backgrounds and explain to our viewers what is Moolec.
Good. After you, Jose.
All right. Thank you. Well, I'm Jose. I am the CFO of Moolec. And, being in Moolec is quite of a dream for me in the sense that I was looking forward to participate in a project that has an amazing opportunity ahead. And that is basically what we have ahead in the alternative protein space. So a little bit about my background. I come from working in a tech company. I come from working in Uber for a couple of years, mostly focused in partnership, which is something that we are really focusing in as well in Moolec. So very useful experience there to apply to this project. Prior to Uber, I did work in the agribusiness world for a couple of years. So I worked for ADM, Archer Daniel Midland, in corporate development, corporate finance, in Chicago and Brazil and in Argentina. And I also worked for a joint venture of Glencore Agri, also in Argentina, mostly in acquisitions and investments in agtech startups. So a lot of background there in agribusiness and the food industry in general. And I did an MBA in Kellogg in Chicago. And prior to that, I spent quite a few years in the capital markets, working for asset managers for a company called Schroders. So really happy to be part of the Moolec team and work here with Gastón.
Awesome.
Happy to have you. Well, Gastón Paladini, CEO Co-Founder of Moolec Science. A little bit about my background. I had been immersed in the traditional meat industry my whole life. Mm-hmm. Because I'm part of a fourth generation of a traditional family business in Argentina. It's one of the largest processing meat players in the region. Actually, it's as I said, family business. We are close to get our 100-year of history. Formerly, I spent more than 10 years in the board of directors. So yeah, I learned I'm the insider here in Altpro. Mm-hmm. It's from the traditional industry. So I learned the whole traditional value chain, from the inside, from the seed to fork, for sure. Because we are totally vertically integrated company. We have our own farms as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm very well acquainted with the main challenges, especially the main issues of the traditional protein system. I'm not the typical alternative protein founder of companies that is against the traditional industry. Mm-hmm. I'm not vegan. That's why we founded a B2B model with Moolec Science to co-work with established players. Mm-hmm. In a sense, to disrupt the industry from the inside, mm-hmm. Learning from the established players and co-working and co-creating with them.
Must have created an incredible perspective being inside of a legacy business that feeds the world as opposed to being on the outside. I imagine you can bring that experience to bear in building the company. What is Moolec?
Well, Moolec is a science-based company leading the molecular farming revolution in the alternative protein landscape. Actually, we produce animal proteins in plants. That's our core technology. That's what plant molecular farming is. You know? The ability to produce the specific molecules that let's say the plant-based movement is missing when they formulate alternative meat products, you know, only with plants. You know? We combine plants with science. Actually, we combine the plant-based side of the alternative protein landscape with the cell-based science or the scientific approach. You know? We combine both with molecular farm. And actually, is the interesting thing about Moolec is that we didn't start from scratch. You know? We have a solid foundation. We are sort of like a spin-off from Bioservice Group, and that's actually, you know, a competitive edge, you know, and a competitive advantage in the whole landscape.
Amazing. And so just to summarize, it sounds like science fiction almost.
Yes.
But what you're saying is that your company is founded around technology that looks to use the row crop infrastructure to grow animal protein.
Yeah, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Yeah. Well, the whole point here in this new vertical in food, you know, in alternative proteins, is how we could get the scale and cost that the market needs. And that's why we use plants.
Can you elaborate on that? Because you know, I've seen a lot of documentaries about growing animal proteins and alternatives in laboratories.
Yeah.
And when I see that, I see in my experience in pharmaceuticals, in food organizations, that represents a lot of cost and a lot of energy. What is it about your approach that is different?
Yeah, well, very good question. Well, we could first describe what's that other technologies doing right now, actually, and the most famous one in alternative proteins right now are precision fermentation or cultured meat. You know? Great technologies, pharmaceutical technologies in food now.
Yeah.
They're definitely proving that it's totally feasible to get animal proteins without animals, with microbes or with animal cells in bioreactors, in labs actually. You know? With biopsies and with technology. Well, it's definitely mind-blowing and is working. The question is if they will get the scale and cost, as I said, that the market needs, you know, because we are talking about labs, we are talking about big tanks here, we are talking about a lot of energy. And we are talking about pharmaceuticals approach, you know. So using plants, using the same approach with the different technologies allow us to get, you know, the hectares that actually we need to feed the world. You know, we are actually inserting the genes of the meat protein genes, of the real DNA of the animals, taking the animals out of the equation, but inserting this gene directly in the seeds, in the germplasm of the plants. And we do not use any plants. Actually, we use soybeans, the queen of crops, and the main plant proteins that actually substitute meat in the plant-based movement. And we use pea as well, you know. So and then we have other crops that we started, but you know, it's definitely a game-changing technology, and focusing on the scale and low cost. That's the main reason.
So that's a lot.
Yes, a lot.
So let me see if I have this right. So you use an initial host, if you will, which is a soy or a pea plant, and for lack of a better word, I'll use my 8th grade biology, you're splicing it to produce animal cells.
It's animal proteins. The molecules are actually proteins,
Okay.
and they are the main proteins that improve taste, flavor, coloring, and nutritional values. See it this way, you know, we are giving back the proteins, the animal-based proteins, in an animal-free way into the plant-based movement again, you know, actually into food again.
what products are you actually creating? Because again, I think this is a bit elusive.
It's not easy to understand, and me as an outsider, when I came to Moolec, it was kind of complex in the beginning, but it's actually pretty easy to understand if you think it this way. We are a company that produce animal-free ingredients. That's our product. We produce ingredients that have no animal intervention whatsoever, and we sell these ingredients to food producers and other ingredient companies that want to create food, animal-based food, sorry, not animal-based food, animal-free food with that ingredient.
Yeah.
With better properties, meaning that they taste better, the texture is better, which is actually that it's not happening quite much right now with plant-based food. Again, we produce ingredients for food producers and ingredient companies, so for them to create better food for the end consumer that do not want to consume something that has the animal in the equation. That's basically
Got it. So your core products are ingredients, and large embedded existing consumer packaged goods players will come to you, contract with you for the raw materials or the ingredients to produce maybe even what they're producing today, but in a different way.
They will produce what they produce today with better results.
Got it.
Their burger will taste better, and the texture of the burger will be better. It will be closer to parity to the animal-based burger. That's what we're looking for. And not only that, it will be at it will make sense from an economic perspective. Right now, the plant-based burgers have a premium to the regular burger. We will disrupt that.
It's amazing. And obviously there's a sustainability angle here. So not only will it taste better, the texture will be better, it's cost efficient is what you're saying.
Yep.
But it's actually better for society. Guys, I have canvassed the landscape a little bit in molecular and in lab grown, and a word that I often come upon is the method of which these companies are producing alternatives. For example, fermentation. Is that the same way you're going about it? And what is it, if not, that's different and unique?
Well, it's a similar approach, but it's a totally different technology. Precision fermentation actually is great. Actually, they are modifying microorganisms to get protein of choice, specific molecules. They're demonstrating that it's totally feasible and it's really, really interesting. But what we have is actually, the next generation. Is we use plants as hosts, not microbes.
Okay.
And we do not use big tanks, big fermented tanks. And we do not use labs. The labs we use it to modify only the seeds, but then we use the traditional farming.
So your approach is actually, from what I'm hearing, less artificial, less synthetic.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you one thing. Moolec's team was the first team to achieve in processors companies a bovine molecule, a bovine protein in a plant for the food industry, and that was the rennet, the plant-based chymosin, as I said. And this is very interesting because in the 90s, the FDA approved the first molecule through precision fermentation technologies because the demand for cheese was so high that the FDA approved these technologies in food, and it was actually the same molecule, chymosin. So chymosin is, in a way, is a validation molecule in biotechnology. Moolec's teams achieved the same using plants and not microbes. And in a way, we could say that Moolec's unlocked molecular farming in food, the same that chymosin unlocked fermentations in the 90s.
Interesting. It's fascinating. Well, thank you so much for clearing that up, guys. You mentioned Bioceres. I mentioned it in the intro. Jose, maybe you can tell us a little bit about where this technology came from and where it is today. Because one of the questions is, again, going back to science fiction, is this ready for the mainstream today? And does it work? And maybe you can give us a little bit of history and how much capital was invested over that period of time?
Sure, of course, Guy. No, and I think one very important thing to have in mind here is that Moolec is a startup. It's actually a corporate startup, right? This is not the story of three founders getting together and starting a project, which is absolutely great. But on top of that, what we have here is a great corporation such as Bioceres, which has so much insight in terms of science and modifying seeds genetically. So we're definitely leveraging on that platform. Now, the science that we have in Moolec was not developed in the last 2 or 3 years when Moolec was actually registered as a company. It's science that was developed for 10 years within Bioceres, which is a company, as you know, listed in NASDAQ. And we are leveraging on that technology, which was spin-off of Bioceres and put into Moolec. So we're leveraging on that technology to expand it to new proteins and to new hosts in general. So this is definitely something that we're very proud of, and we are taking all of the advantage that we can take out of it, because it was something that it gives us a competitive edge versus other competitors that have started in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So, okay, Moolec itself is a new company, but this technology is not new. And it, in fact, has been incubated for many, many years, and also that represents human capital that was invested by Bioceres and also traditional capital. And it's interesting that you bring up that it's a spin out of a corporate, because that's actually reminds me of the old days of venture capital, where you had big businesses with new ideas and they were spun out and backed by venture capitalists. So it's actually a model that I think a lot of VCs would love to get back to. And it's interesting. I think that represents a de-risking of your business model.
Absolutely.
So where are you now? As we think about, you've received some venture capital investment. Obviously, the union has invested in this. As I mentioned, I sit on the board of the public part of Bioceres Crop Solutions, and we are investors in this technology and in this business. Where are you now, and where do you see yourself in 12 to 24 months? Are you at the point where you're commercializing this technology?
Well, I will take this one, at least for the operations side, and Jose will complement with the financial side. I think 2022 is definitely a pivot year for us in terms of our operations, because we are expanding our IP portfolio. We are moving forward with our meat products. Actually, what we learned from our safflower and cheese products, we transferred it and scaled it with soy and pea. These two main platforms are, the main meat analogs in the alternative protein meat industry. Soy and pea proteins definitely are the queen of, especially soy, of the extenders and the main substitute of meat. But we are combining these proteins with animal protein genes, with meat protein genes directly. This is happening right now. We are in T1, T2 stage in greenhouses, moving forward with field trials very, very soon. So definitely we are going to end the year with these traits in very good shape. I'm moving forward to the multiplying of the seeds of these new traits. And at the same time, we are starting prototyping and validating these products with established players. We have great contracts with food producers right now, validating our B2B model. And this is actually great because allow us to prototype in hands-on in their own facilities with commercial formulas. That's what an ingredient company does, is prototype directly with food producers.
So you're already working with customers, and those are, because you're an ingredient business, those are the large food companies that can use this as an input into their traditional business.
That's right, and that's why it's really relevant for us, the relationship with the R&D, specifically the R&D departments of these food producers. They are the ones that actually decide if the ingredient works or not. So
I guess it's a good validator too of the technology, right? Because if you can get through a major food company, because if you think about their brand equity, which is the sole part of their value, if you can get them to expose their core product, to risk, then you've gone through one of the greatest diligence processes that you could create.
It's true, yeah. I think it's a great moment for Moolec right now. At the same time, we believe that the other technologies in the landscapes they're totally synergistic with our technology.
Yep.
The whole vertical is just starting. It's right now. The alternative protein industry is just a niche. If you see it right now, but the projections are huge.
Yep.
And I think that all technology will find their own place.
Mm-hmm.
We believe that molecular farming will definitely become the full technological pillar in outgrow after plant-based fermentation and cultured meat, and that is what is happening right now with the whole landscape. The think tanks, the organizations, the players, the established players, of the world, the established ingredients players, are recognizing molecular farming as the next generation of alternative proteins.
So as an investor, okay, what I've seen over the past 24 months is an influx of capital in the private markets, and to some extent, public companies have been formed. But clearly there is something, there's an unmet need. Clearly investors view that there is demand for this sort of technology in the world. What is it, maybe going a little bit deeper, why are so many people attracted to investing capital in this space?
Maybe I can get a first stab at that. First of all, you're right. During 2021, actually $5 billion poured into the alternative protein market in different companies in different stages, but basically from startup to public companies, but a lot into startups. So there's a fundamental interest from the investor world, VCs, family offices, asset managers, institutional investors. There's a fundamental interest in this sector, and the reason why is because there's a change in the consumer behavior that demands this kind of solution for the end consumer. People are asking for plant-based food or food that is not made out of animals. Right? Mm-hmm. So again, that drives the demand and the amount of money that's being put into these projects. Now, there's different ways to channelize these investments. You have technologies, as Gastón said, plant-based technologies. You have fermentation-based technologies. You have cellular-based technologies, and then you have the fourth vertical that basically what we are co-creating with other participants in the market, which is molecular farm. Mm-hmm. This is a new vertical. This is a new vertical not only technologically wise, but also from an investment point of view wise. Yeah. And we believe, as Gastón mentioned in the beginning, this is going to be the winner of the verticals, given that has the best chances and the best structure to be scalable from an economic perspective.
Can you maybe explain that one more time? Why is this so scalable?
Because we are using plants as bioreactors, plants as factories. You have industrial facilities with a lot of money that has to be invested, a lot of capex that have to be invested in that, a lot of operational expenses that need to go into that industrial process. You're using plants.
I see. So there's if you think about ESG as we think about it, it sounds like a social element to what you're talking about. Meaning, if I hear you correctly, instead of creating new facilities and using more raw materials and resources to build bricks and mortar to then house the growth of these facilities, you're not doing that. You're using the farms that are already existing in terms of row crop production, and you're using that same process of growing, okay, that otherwise would be used for soy or something else, and you're producing a different type of product, which also brings me to this concept of you're taking a row crop that has a certain commodity value, but in fact actually you're producing a meat protein. So in fact you're creating a huge social impact.
It is, yeah. See it this way, the beauty of our technology is the only thing that actually we modify is just the seed.
Yeah.
With a specific IP.
Yeah, and that's done, right? So as you described earlier, the seed is the seed. This is biological. So what you're doing right now is replicating those seeds, and you're creating an inventory because you need a certain level of inventory. As I've learned through my relationship with Bioceres in HB4, it's the same concept. We have to build an inventory of biological seeds to sustain future sales. And that's really where you guys are right now. So in effect, you're scaling already.
True, well said, yes.
One other area when we talk about farming that comes up all the time is sustainability. Okay, that's water usage. That is, there are fewer and fewer hectares of arable land, and we have a growing population. So how do we do less with more? And for example, Brazil is in the front page every single day. We argue about the global treasure, not just national treasure, but the global treasure that is the Amazon. Deforestation is a major correlation with meat production. How does this interplay with that concept?
See it this way, half of the croplands in the world goes to feed.
Yeah.
To feed animals in livestock. What we are doing in Moolec Science is changing that logic. We are actually feeding the plants with animal cells, with animal proteins. It's totally
You're hacking it.
Yeah,
I mean, really, you're
right.
cutting out a major part that sucks in resources to get the same result, if not a greater result.
And we skip the livestock and go directly to food. So, of course, everything is growing. Population is growing. We need to feed so many people.
Yeah.
And that's fine, and we understand that conversion rate.
Yep.
But if you see it this way, if the farmer, the only thing that they need to do is just to switch a seed, soy seed, not a traditional seed. It's like a Moolec seed.
Yeah.
Soy with soy and meat proteins.
Yep.
It's actually the infrastructure is the same. We skip the livestock and we go directly to human consumptions, and that's actually have a lot of value in terms of sustainability because we save the GHG emissions, the land use, the water use. We know all it takes 1 kilo of meat to be produced. So many liters of water, so many lands, and so many grains. This is definitely a sustainable solution that put focus on scale and low cost.
It's basic. So when we talk about methane gas, in terms of emissions from the innumerable head of cattle that are impacting our global environment, this offsets that. And really, you're just taking in a sense, a carbon sink, which is growing, plants, which obviously use carbon dioxide. It's really profound.
It is.
Right. One more thing that I think it's important to mention is that the technology that Moolec has doesn't need any customization on the downstream. So you do not need to build any new industrial facilities to process our grains. It's basically you take advantage of what is built so far, through contracts with third parties, or you could even we of course proactively search for having our own industrial facilities, but we can have contract and third parties, and we do not need to build new industrial facilities to process our
That makes
products.
sense because they're already doing it. There's already an infrastructure in place. You're just modifying it.
That's right.
Right.
Okay. Where is this business in 24 months? And who are your investors today? Is this potentially a public company? And I think, as I interpret what you're telling me, is you have an incredibly large market opportunity. You've got a technology that is proven, and you're really in the scale-up stage with existing customers. So there's some of the largest food producers in the world.
We see Moolec as leading this molecular farming revolution, encouraging other startups to start developing, new seeds, and definitely we encourage that. We believe that this is just starting. The capability of using plants to produce bovine proteins, pork proteins, also egg proteins, chicken. So this is, as I said, just starting, with, and we are also exploring and incubating new projects for the future as well.
I think I understand now why all of the private capital is flowing into this area that is generally alternatives. But what I haven't seen is any public company that is doing anything like what you're doing. I've seen dairy alternatives, I've seen plant-based alternatives go public, but I've not seen any business that is actually producing animal protein using the embedded agricultural infrastructure that exists today. Is that right?
It's right. That's true.
So if we could shift gears to human capital and really a company, because it's not just you two, although you represent a substantial percentage of the value in the business, of course, but it's not just you two. And what I think I am hearing is a vision and a perspective born of the historical animal protein industry over 100 years. So that's vision. And what I'm hearing from Jose is a tremendous amount of experience from a commercial and partnership perspective in and around agriculture and agriculture trading. Where's the science piece of this, and are there folks outside of this room that represent the science?
Yeah, well, let me say that of course we are always talking with the third parties, and in my case, leading the team, but the stars here are the PhDs, the scientists.
Yeah.
We have a great CSO here in the States. Amit Dhingra is a professor as well, Texas A&M. I know he has more than 25 years experience modifying seeds with microfarming technologies for different other applications.
Yeah.
He's leading our crop science team here in the States.
Okay.
Henk Huankam, one of our co-founders, he's also this insider experience, in the food science space.
Yeah.
Thinking always in the application of our products, prototyping. He's leading our Moolabs.
Yeah.
We have a lab only for food applications. So we test and validate our MVPs, minimal viable products every day with Henk. He's leading this platform. Martin Salinas, our CTO and co-founder as well. The good thing about Martin is that he has spent more than 10 years in biosource. He knows, firsthand the whole plant-based chymosin project, from the very beginning. And he is right now leading the technology side of Moolec, combining the science with the downstream facilities and the go-to-market that Jose said.
So you mentioned Texas. We're obviously here in Miami, Florida. Where are all of your people and assets located? And do you have plans to be here in Florida in the future?
Yeah, well, it's an amazing place, to be. But right now, sometimes I say that the Moolec Science is more cloud-based, than a specific territory.
Well, you've had COVID, which is majorly impactful.
True.
But you also are dealing with IP, so that can be done almost anywhere, right?
Yeah, true. But I could say that 70% of our operations and R&D are in the States, different territories in the States.
Okay.
We still have some R&D and operations in Argentina. Makes sense for the cultivation side, and also to be most cost competitive in terms of R&D. And we have our Moolabs in the Netherlands.
Okay.
The main reason why we have that in the Netherlands is because there is a great network of food technologies, especially plant-based.
Okay.
Henk lives there, he runs the Moolabs there. We are planning to move it and relocate it in the States.
Okay.
We are planning that for this year and concentrate at least most of our operations and R&D here in the States. So it could be Florida one place, but I don't know if it could be Miami, because it would be South Florida or not.
Well, you probably don't want to be here because then you have to deal with me every day. But I hope you come to Miami, I'll tell you that much.
Right. No, I think it's also important to say that we will be expanding the team. Of course, from the science part, that's always important that we have a great scientific team. We want to expand it. We will also be expanding our team from a business development perspective. We see that it's a very, very important start developing the relationship with food producers, ingredient companies, and other participants in the space. We want to start building those from now. We are doing it right now. We want to accelerate that. And as our products start to become ready and we start generating commercial agreements, we want to scale that as well, right?
It's really outstanding stuff, guys. I think I've gotten through most of my material. Is there anything I should have asked that I didn't ask? And anything that you want to deliver to the audience that maybe we should reinforce or that we didn't mention?
Well, actually, yes. We are actually modifying seeds, and we are using GM techniques. We are genetically modifying the seeds. And sometimes in food, there's some concerns in terms of GM techniques.
Right.
And we are proud of that. Because we use GM techniques for good, and we are, encouraging other companies to use it in a responsible way. We founded a movement. It's just starting. It's gmforgood.org. As a specific organizations to promote, educate, and inform the whole landscape. Say, established players, consumers, other industries, the benefits of using GM techniques for good reasons. And it's working. Well, actually, when we speak with food producers, they're okay with GM. Actually, they have their own policies. Perhaps they don't say it. But they have their own policies. So. If we need to feed, the whole population here, then definitely this is growing dramatically. So we need to put all the technologies on the table to face the major challenge here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is not boutique food, right? We're talking about a country like China that has a tremendously growing population that has just been absolutely devastated from the swine flu, right?
Yeah.
Where they've, numbers I've seen as great as 50% of their domestic supply of pigs had to be destroyed. No, this isn't really about the 1%. This is about solving a greater problem with fewer resources. And as far as I've studied history, science is really the only way you can do that. And any new technology or science has dealt with obstruction, right, and fear, and I think it's driven by fear. But I appreciate that. The future is about using science and technology as a tool responsibly. And so I appreciate you bringing that up and your intent to use this science in a responsible way.
That's our main mission. Main goal is to encourage science in food. And I think the timing is great, because of COVID.
It's moved people. They've had to deal with a new environment, right? So they're kind of knocked off their pedestal, and that tends to be a good time versus complacency.
Majority of people is trusting, COVID vaccines.
That's right.
Because we want to solve this problem. But we have a major problem in food right now.
That's right.
And that's why we think that believing in science, the same as we believe in science for pharma, is definitely the way.
Well, it goes to the very heart of our relationship in that we see the problem, and we invest across not just Moolec, but we are in a number of different solutions that that really need capital investment and technology advancement in order to solve the problem. There isn't a silver bullet, as far as I can tell. So look, I applaud all the effort. I am really excited about this business. I think there are really big things to come, and I'm looking forward to being your partner.
Thank you very much, Glenn.
Thanks. Thank you so much.